Hey lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is my life. So I've been getting a lot of requests to do a video based on Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, aka EDS. So I decided to answer your questions about my experience with hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. Let's get into this video.
Make things right. I hold you and wipe your tears.
What is Ehlers Danlos Syndrome? So Ehlers Danlos Syndrome is a group of connective tissue disorders that are hereditary and that are caused due to a collagen defect. Collagen defect? I think that's what it's called. Basically, a collagen gene defect. I'm not going to get into it because I know nothing about science. There are different types of EDS and I have hypermobile Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, so the hypermobile type. There are other types as well, like classical-like, vascular type, and there's just a whole bunch of other types as well, but I have hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. So without further ado, let's get into the first question. What were the first signs you noticed? So I didn't notice anything growing up, but if I was to translate to this question looking back, what do I see as warning signs? I would say the reoccurring dislocations along with sore joints and being completely hypermobile as a kid. How did you get your diagnosis? Did you pursue diagnosis or did a doctor / someone else suggest it to you? Okay, so I did not pursue diagnosis. How I got diagnosed is an interesting story. Now, I had heard about Ehlers Danlos Syndrome before a doctor suggested it to me because I was doing research when I got diagnosed with gastroparesis about what gastroparesis was. And I saw that a lot of people with gastroparesis also had Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. I, however, at the time was very skeptical of the thought that I could have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, and I just didn't think I had it at all. But funny enough, a lot of you guys actually were commenting on my videos saying, you need to get checked out for Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. You look like you have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. Not like you look like, but it sounds like you have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And you guys know something because I have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. So the way I got diagnosed was I went to see my gastro about gastroparesis, and this was the new gastro I was seeing who's the top in Australia for this condition, for gastroparesis. And he had asked for my medical history and he said, were you a healthy child? I said, yes, I was. And they said, have you ever been to hospital? And I said, well, I mean, I have, but it was only for dislocations. Then he stopped and looked at me and was like, right. So he went on his computer, looked up some stuff and got me to do some physical stuff, the bait in school basically, and said, look, I think you've got Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, but I'm only a gastroenterologist, so I can't diagnose you with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, but I'm going to refer you on to a rheumatologist who can. So I got referred to a rheumatologist, and at the same time, I was doubtful. I was like, I don't think I've got Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. But at the same time, part of me was like, maybe I do. Maybe I do have Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. But then I was like, no, I can't. Anyway, long story short, went to a rheumatologist, got diagnosed with hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, and the rest is history. What were your signs out of the 12 signs of a systemic connective tissue disorder? So this one, I think what the question is asking is what were like the criteria? How did I go against the criteria of how you go about getting diagnosed with hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos Syndrome? I honestly don't know. I don't know much about the criteria. All I know is I went to a rheumatologist appointment. He asked me a whole bunch of stuff about my history, medical history, family history, and did a whole bunch of, you know, this sort of stuff. Whole bunch of like movements and different things, and he also examined and saw that I could be quite flexible, and all I know is it ticked all the boxes and I got diagnosed with hypermobile type Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. So yeah. How did your EDS affect you in your early life, like in school? So in school, I did not know anything was wrong with me. Obviously, I did know I had things like autism and Tourette syndrome and anxiety and depression, but they were kind of like on the mental health side. I didn't really think I had anything physically wrong with me. I had no idea. I did have certain parts that I look back on now and I think, wow, that really did affect me to some extent in school, which is sore muscles, sore bones, sore joints. So I struggled with sore joints like crazy, to the point where my bus ride home, which was about like a 50-minute bus ride home, was my favorite part of the day, because I could literally just put my feet up and sleep on the bus. Even though you're not really supposed to put your feet up on the seats, I did it anyway because I'm a rebel. Not really, I was a teacher's pet. Basically, I had issues with fatigue. I was really tired all the time, and I remember complaining about being tired, and my friends would be like, stop complaining, you're always complaining you're tired. Yeah, well, now I know there's a reason that I was tired. So fatigue and joints being sore and also dislocating my knee and other joints at school. I literally dislocated my knee at school once, slipping on a banana peel. Like, I kid you not, some kid had littered his banana peel on the floor, and I was running late to class, was running and didn't notice where I was going and slipped on a banana peel and dislocated my knee. Go figure. So yes, I did have a lot of dislocation issues at school, where I had to basically go to the office, get an ice pack, and then get my knee brace out of my bag, because I always carried a knee brace with me because these things happened a lot. Did your hypermobility get you recruited to compete in gymnastics? So interestingly enough, in the area that I live in, gymnastics isn't much of a common sport. We only have one gymnasium and is actually limited to how many people can be in that class. And at schools, we just don't do gymnastics. I will say, however, dance is a really big thing here. At least it was when I was younger. And I got into dance group. I did a lot of the flexible stuff in dance group. I also did dance outside of school, and yes, did all the flexible stuff. So I may not have been recruited to do gymnastics, but I did get recruited? No. I joined up, and they were quite impressed with my dancing skills. Do you have bladder issues? Not that I know of. However, I do have issues with it, but nothing diagnosed. Do you have any subluxations or dislocations? Yes, so I have sublux and dislocated my fingers and toes. Like I mentioned before, dislocated both knees multiple times, my shoulders and my jaw as well. And just, my jaw I subluxed. I didn't dislocate it, I subluxed it. Yeah, and my ankles I subluxed so much, a lot. But in terms of dislocation, I think the only joints that I've had issue with dislocating is my knee, shoulder, fingers and toes. And the way I would dislocate them would be different ways. So sometimes it was literally just stepping back from the TV so someone could watch TV. Sometimes it was just walking and my knee would give way. Sometimes it was being tickled and I fall to the ground. Sometimes it was dance and rougher activities, but it wasn't always rougher activities. There were so many times where it was just literally walking. What joints are your worst and most painful? My knees are the worst when it comes to dislocations. Both of them dislocate multiple times. And then when it comes to sore joints, I would say my fingers get really sore, which I struggle with guitar, which is a pain. And also my ankles get pretty sore as well, and my legs. Just everything in my legs, all the joints in my legs are just really sore a lot of the time. And that's just how it is, unfortunately. Do you wonder why you have EDS yet none of your family don't? Interestingly enough, okay, so none of my family that I know of has it. And I'm in a bit of an odd situation here where I have an entire side of the family I know almost nothing about. Long story, but basically my mom's side of the family I'm really close with. I get on with them. They are like, my cousins on that side are like my best friends, and I grew up with them. And my dad's side of the family, I hardly know them. I've only met I don't know, 4 of them in my life, 4 of them in his family, and only very few times. And my dad, I haven't seen him since I was 8 for reasons that I'm not going to explain. But however, that being said, there are a few things we do know about his side of the family that kind of rings some alarm bells. For instance, they all had hernias and had to get mesh, and they had heart issues. My auntie on that side had had like a rupture of her uterus during pregnancy and almost died. So yeah, there's a lot of health issues on that side of the family, so it really does kind of ring alarm bells. They're also very flexible. So yeah. No one I know has it, but I have a whole side of the family that might have it, but I don't know because I've hardly met them. I only know certain things from when I was younger and what I've been told. All right, and my last question is, are you scared of the future? I don't really know how to answer this one because I'm not really, I don't have like a fear of the future really. I do have worries though, or I think I'd say I'm more nervous of the future rather than worried, and I think my main nerves come from not knowing what I can and can't do with my future because of the fact that I'm quite limited at the moment, and part of me is like, will I always be this limited, or will I find a solution to help me get back up on my feet again and do things? But I would say my worst kind of problem that I suffer with, like the thing that affects me the worst, which is not by any means the same for everyone else, but in my circumstance, gastroparesis is something that affects me worse than Ehlers Danlos Syndrome affects me. Some people it's the other way around, but for me it's definitely the gastroparesis because it's very difficult, but it's just what I live with, and I have to learn to live with it and learn to accept it, and I'm learning that every day. And also putting my trust in God and knowing that He holds my future and that this life isn't it for me. And the cool thing is, I'm not going to heaven because I'm cool, because I'm not cool. I'm not going to heaven because I'm perfect and put together, because I'm definitely not perfect and put together. I'm not going to heaven because I'm healthy and wealthy, because I'm definitely not healthy and wealthy. I'm going to heaven because Jesus loves me and sees my flaws and decides to intercede. And that to me is something that helps me to put things into perspective when I start to worry about my future. Anyway, that was my video for today. Thank you so much to everyone who brought their questions in, and I will admit this is like the 4th time I've filmed this due to many complications with the camera and my microphone and many other things, but I'm gonna stop rambling on here and say if you like this video, then be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you liked it even more, then don't forget to click that subscribe button. You can also follow me over my Instagram at Amity Gilmour. And also don't forget to ring the notification bell in order to stay updated for new videos coming from me every Saturday at 9 AM. Love you guys, bye.